Whenever we have the opportunity to speak with Senator Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee, it's an embarrassment of riches because there's so many great topics to get to with her. Senator Blackburn, thanks for joining us. I actually want to begin with what's going on earlier today in the Judiciary Committee. It looked like Democrats are just hell-bent on obstructing the entire process there over their obsession with Clarence Thomas.
Well, you're right about that, and they are trying to push a Supreme Court ethics bill. That is not the jurisdiction of the U.S. Senate or the U.S. Congress. It is the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court of the United States. But of course, the court has made decisions that the left does not agree with. So what they're trying to do is find a way to delegitimize the court and then push toward court packing,
right,
which is what they're trying to do, which is increasing the size of the court from 9 members to 13 members so that they can load it with liberals and leftists and people who have a political agenda. They're very upset about having constitutional judges and justices, people that are originalists, who believe in the rule of law.
You know, I'm almost old enough to remember when they were really concerned about returning to the norms. And once they get into power, they want to do away with the Electoral College. They want to do away with 2 senators per state. They want to pack the court and expand it. You know, they swear to uphold the Constitution, but then they get into office, Senator Blackburn, and they try to undo the very fabric of the Constitution.
Right, exactly. Yes, we hear it from them all the time. You know, they want to change the First Amendment. They want to change or take away the Second Amendment. The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And we see this government-wide. We see it with our first principles, with our fundamental and foundational documents. And of course, we see it in policies that they put in place,
yeah,
whether it is an open border policy where they're trying to find ways to make illegal legal so they can change the number reporting, or the student loan debacle that even after the Supreme Court rules against the administration, they say, well, we're going to modify the rule and we're going to pick out 80,000 or 804,000 people, and we're going to forgive their student loans.
Yeah.
They do not have that authority, but they do not want to recognize that Article 1 gives that authority to members of Congress, yeah, and not to the executive branch.
Yeah, I can't remember a time when Congress tries to vote to undermine their own constitutional authority and hand it over. It makes no sense. You mentioned open borders, and I know you're dealing with a horrific crime in your state of Tennessee. The suspect allegedly raped multiple children. As if that's not bad enough, this person should have never been in the country. He's been here illegally, and it's a perfect example of Secretary Mayorkas and President Biden's lawlessness in enforcing our immigration laws.
It is an example of what happens when immigration law is not enforced. Now, this individual has been in the country for 20 years, and they have lived in Franklin, Tennessee. And somehow this individual passed a background check and became a soccer referee and a soccer coach. And he used that entree to be able to groom and then to drug and rape children. Oh. And as we talk about this issue, our hearts and our thoughts need to be with the children that have suffered from this crime. There is nothing more horrific than this. And as a mother and grandmother, my hearts are with those families and with any children maybe that are not named yet, or children that have not come forward yet, that may have suffered some type of affront or assault from this horrific monster.
Well,
and I think that we have to be just grateful for God's goodness in a wait staff picking up that phone and then trying to identify the owner of the phone and comes across this and immediately calls police.
That's right. The suspect left his phone in a restaurant, and it is amazing how they found him. They never would have. And I agree with you. I mean, obviously, these children and their family are in our prayers, but we also have to be vigilant about the other children who could be the victim of the next rapist. And that's where Secretary Mayorkas comes in. You've led your Tennessee delegation in sending a letter to the secretary. Has there been any response? Are they taking this seriously?
I've not heard any response. I've not gotten a phone call. I'm grateful that the other members of the Tennessee delegation joined me on this letter, because Tennesseans are asking every day, how could this possibly happen? That this guy could have had run-ins with the law, public intoxication, driving violations, other things that caused him to be picked up by the police. So he had those run-ins with the law. ICE was never called. He passes a background check.
Unbelievable.
To be in contact with these children. Nothing comes up, and ICE is never called while he's going back to 2005, having these infractions and committing these crimes, if you will.
Yeah.
And nothing is ever done.
No, and it frustrates so many Americans when they see nothing is ever done. It's this sense of lawlessness. And by the way, you highlighted another case out of San Bernardino County, California. I listened to part of your new podcast. Congratulations on a new podcast, Unmuted with Marsha. Although stay in your lane, Senator. I don't need you getting into the media business, all right? But you talked to this former deputy, Megan McCarthy, about how the effects of defunding the police are affecting the cops on the ground right now. I'd love for you to share part of her story with us.
Yes, and people can find my Unmuted with Marsha wherever they are going through Facebook or Instagram or podcast. They're going to find this. But here's the thing. She was attacked and brutally attacked. And this was an admission. I mean, it's not like the criminal was trying to hide this. Mm-hmm. He came after her. She was responding to a domestic situation. But then they go to court on this, and even with her bruised and injured, the judge lets the guy off. Yeah. Now think about this. He has attacked a police officer. He has tried to pull her gun. This is an amazing story. And the judge still lets the guy off.
And all under the guise of criminal justice reform. And, you know, there are certain things in this country, Senator Blackburn, that didn't used to be partisan. Republicans and Democrats, listen, for years we haven't agreed on certain things, but we agreed on enforcing the law. We agreed on keeping criminals behind bars. What has happened here?
And when you look at the soft on crime approach and looking at criminals as victims, and then looking at police as they're not looked at as heroes. They are looked at as people that are violating other people. That this attitude from the left needs to stop. This nation has remained free because we abide by the rule of law. And when you have these soft on crime prosecutors, these soft on crime DAs, these soft on crime judges that feel like that these criminals are victims, then you're going to have more situations like Deputy Megan McCarthy.
Yep, well
where
said.
The criminal comes at her, and the criminal is who gets off.
It's this sense of lawlessness that at the local level, like you just described, at the border, and even in the Senate Judiciary Committee earlier today. Thank you so much for carving time for us. Don't be a stranger. There's more to get to with Senator Marsha Blackburn in the future. In the meantime, listen to her podcast, Unmuted with Marsha. There's more to come on O'Connor Tonight.